And sometimes these servants were cruel and heartless, and they beat the backs of these people. And then there was another type of prisoner that was taken prisoner by a merciful man, a good slave owner that watched after and built houses for his captives to live in, and saw that they had clothes to wear and the things of this life. And then when it came time, see, every 7 years, they were supposed to turn all these captives loose after a man had served 7 years. That was typical of a lifetime. Then all the slave owners were supposed to turn their slaves loose and let them have their freedom from then on. And so if a man had a good master and he treated him right, and he was living as good as anybody else around about, and when his slave owner said, you're free now, you've served 7 years, you're free to go away. And the man would say, but I love my master, and I've got a good deal here. I've got as much as anybody else has. I'm happy with my lot. And he said, but I don't want to go free. And then the Bible said they would take an awl and would take him to the doorpost of the house and stick an awl right through there. You women have your ears pierced here for earrings and such as that. Well, you ought to stick your ear to the house of God and let us nail you down here. And it'll beat you having your ears pierced with a little decoration, earring there. And so this inward ear here, you get that pierced and get nailed to the house of God, and from then on you'll have your ear pinned to the gospel. You'll have your ear pinned to the songs and everything else around here. And so when they put that awl through his ear into the doorpost, that meant, I'll live with this man till I die. I will be his servant as long as I live. I'll never ask for my freedom. I'm having a good deal. He's feeding me good. My kids are taken care of, and I've got a house to live in. What better deal could I ask for? So I love my master. I'm going to stay with him from now on. So you see, sometimes we have to be forced. Sometimes where the impelling force of God or some calamity happens to us, puts us flat on our back and causes us to cry out to God, and that way he captures us and we come to our senses and serve the Lord. But after you serve the Lord a while, then you ought to be a willing servant. You ought to say, this is a good deal. I'm promised everlasting life. I'm promised to have my spirit settled down, my wild nature conquered. And that's worth everything in the world for you to serve the Master, Jesus Christ, that has promised to give you his Spirit to overcome with. And he said the Spirit that he gives us, it's not the spirit of this world, but the Spirit which is of God, the Bible said. And that Spirit will help you in your infirmities. We're all infirm one way or another. And so we've been promised some wonderful things here. Who would want to leave such a master as Jesus? Who would want to walk out on him after you've had the Holy Ghost about 7 years? Say, well, I want the world, and I want to dress and act like the world. I want to go out in the world, and I want to mix and mingle, and I don't want to go to church. I don't want to give my money. I've quit testifying. I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to read my Bible. I'm going to take the world for it. We've had people in all of our churches, after they stayed around a while, maybe reared from a little child in the church. They get a little older, they lust after the world. They get too close to the world. Parents don't watch after their little boys and girls, and they let them go and see sports of all kinds, buy them a TV, let them see all that mess on there, and they're just planting a seed in that child's heart to say, well, I want to be a movie star. I want to be a ball player. I want to be popular. And I want to act like some of these movie stars here. And I'd like to get in a big fine car, live in a big Hollywood house out there someplace. And a poor little thing, that spirit is sowed in their heart because the parents helped do it. They put that stuff before them. Jesus said in the book of Psalms, I will put no evil thing before my eyes. Just the very minute he detected that there was something wrong in what he's looking at, he turned his head. He didn't look at it till he got sore eyes. But he said, I'll put no evil thing before my eyes. But you put evil things in front of your children's eyes, and you're going to have a case on your hand, mother, dad. You're going to be sorry that you ever encouraged your child and exposed him to the things of this life here. Remember all these scriptures. It talks about the world and the danger of mixing with the world, getting too close to it. And love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For all that's in the world is the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life, and the lust of the eye, and it is not of God. Then who is it? It's fallen humanity and the devil. That's what it said. That's what is the instigation of it. And it isn't of God. And that's going to pass away. All that's going to pass away is just transient and passing, and it's going to vanish after a while. And all of this sports and the stuff that you see going on in this world, it's going to change. It can't stay that way. It's too flimsy. It's too fickle. It doesn't satisfy the human heart. It gets too expensive after a while. And then after a while, you get too old to enjoy anything like that. And so far as you're concerned, it passes away. And so it's not of the Father, it's of the world, and the fashion of it passes away. But they that do the will of God will abide forever. That just simply means you'll have everlasting life if you do what God tells you to do. And so we are here to find out and differentiate and divide between the good and the evil, the right and the wrong, and get a sharp contrast. We don't want any borderline cases here. We don't want any pastel shades. We want to make sin just as black, just as red, just as brilliant as we can, so that there's no mistake. And you want to make righteousness just as blue and just as white and just as golden, and let it not be simmered down in pastel shades. But when a thing's wrong, say it's wrong. See it wrong. And realize that if you partake of it, it'll bring death to your soul. And then when something's right, we don't want to tone that down and say, well, I guess it's better. The Lord didn't give 10 suggestions when He gave the 10 commandments. He didn't just say, well, it'd be better for you to worship the Lord now, but if it's optional, you can worship the idols if you want to, but it's best to serve the Lord. It's best now to always tell the truth, but if you get caught in a tight place, well, you can lie your way out of it. So I suggest that you tell the truth. Just a whole lot of suggestions. No certainties, no absolutes. Just make it where it'll stretch to suit your spirit and what you want to do, or it'll shrink to meet you, whatever you want. The Lord didn't do it that way. Bless His heart. He gave us rules, laws, regulations that'll regulate your life if you listen to it. Your life's all out of regulation, and it's out of harmony with God. And we're not at peace with God when we're born this world. And it takes a long time to come to peace terms with the Lord, because we're born hostile. We're born hostile. We're born enemies by wicked works, the Bible said. And since we've got a wild nature there. Paul said we were wild by nature. The nature made us wild. Our natures were wild. They wasn't tamed to obey God. And we came under that curse. That's what it cost you to be born in this world. That's what it's cost you to live here. And if you don't want relief from it, well, that's up to you. But if you want relief from it, there's a way out for you. But I'll tell you, it's not easy. It isn't easy for you to conquer a gossipy tongue and lustful eyes and foul language and dirty thoughts. It isn't easy to change on a doctrine in the Bible when you think you're deeply religious and you're very sincere and you're very conscientious, and here you believe some heresy that the Bible absolutely is contrary to, and tells you that that's not certain, that's uncertain, that's flimsy, that's not an absolute to it at all. And people will believe all that stuff because it makes it easy for them to sin. Gives them the way of least resistance, instead of just conquering themselves and giving themselves orders before the Lord and saying, I'm going to do it like God said. I'm going to do it just like He said, no more, no less. I'm satisfied with His law. I delight in it. It's delivering me. It's changing me. It's conquering me. And I'm getting peace with myself and God and everybody around me. So don't ask me to change. Don't ask me to trade off what I'm believing and thinking and doing here, because I want to delight in the absolute law of God. Amen. Think of it for a minute. Absolute. That means that there's nothing left undone. There isn't any weak place in it. But the law of God is perfect. The 19th chapter of Psalms tells us the law of God is perfect. The law is perfect. And any imperfect person that will obey a perfect law to make them perfect after a while. It'll help you, and it'll bring you to the place. If you obey these commandments of the Lord and the will of God. Law of the Lord is perfect,